Scorned, obsessed, seething. It's May 18th, 2020, and a woman by the name of Tracy Mondabal maneuvers a pickup truck through the drive-thru at the Burger King in Pella, Iowa. She's picking up an evening meal for herself and her boyfriend, a man named Nick Boat. The truck Tracy is driving is Nick's truck. Tracy doesn't know it, but as she squeezes that pickup truck through the narrow drive-through lane, Tracy's being watched. Some might even say hunted. Nearby, her hunter watches through the window of a Cadillac. Her hunter is scorned, obsessed, and seething. And her hunter is prepared, armed, and angry. Very angry. Oblivious, Tracy places her order and drives forward. And when the cashier hands her her food in that brown paper bag, little does she know that will be her very last meal. Tracy leaves Burger King and heads toward Nick's workplace. It's at Vermeer on the northeast side of Pella. As Tracy pulls into that parking lot, she's unaware that she's been followed. And she's unaware that as she parks, the Cadillac has pulled into a parking spot just mere yards behind her. Nick trots out of the truck, or trots out of work and hops into the truck. Their relationship is still new. It's only about 9 weeks old. And so they're still really excited to see each other. So they've tried to spend as much time as they possibly can together, even if it means just spending time at each other's workplace during a break. They're excited to spend time together. It's nothing glamorous, though, if you think about it. It's fast food in a cab of a pickup truck in a parking lot. It wasn't glamorous, but it was special to them. Technically, Nick is still married, but he and his wife are separated. Nick has moved out of the house, and he's moved on with his life. Nick's wife, on the other hand, has not. Not by a long shot, not even close. We'll learn that Nick recalls that Tracy oftentimes wore a fairly distinctive necklace. Some might call it a choker. And we'll also learn that while Nick and Tracy down their food, the woman behind the Cadillac was Nick's ex-wife. The woman seated in that chair right there, the defendant, Michelle Boat. We'll learn that after they have a short 20 or 25 minute dinner break, Nick hops out of the truck and goes back to work. And Tracy starts the drive home. And we'll learn the Cadillac follows. For Tracy, the drive home isn't all that far, just a few minutes. So it's not long before Tracy pulls in to her driveway and turns off her truck. But before Tracy can undo her seatbelt, this defendant is on her. Being scorned, obsessed, and seething has led to this moment. The defendant is armed with a knife and is wearing latex gloves. She stabs at Tracy. Tracy tries to fight back, pulling the defendant's hair and trying to defend herself. But she's unarmed. She's unaware the attack was coming, and she was restrained by a seatbelt. In the end, Tracy Mondabal never stood a chance. We'll see that Tracy has defensive wounds to her hands, but despite her efforts, one of the stab wounds slices into and stops Tracy's heart. Nearby, we'll learn that one neighbor hears someone saying something like, "He's mine. You can't have him." Another neighbor sees someone covered in blood walking away from the truck. The evidence in this case will not leave any doubt as to who that someone was, or that someone had been scorned, obsessed, and seething since the day Nick moved out. We'll learn that this defendant even went so far as to have a calendar in her kitchen that counted up the days he had been gone. Of course, when the police converge on the scene, they don't know that history. And although the police were there virtually immediately, their response time was just long enough for this defendant behind her Cadillac, the wheel of her Cadillac, to speed away. The responding officers, as you might expect, are focused on trying to save the life of the bloody, limp woman still in the seatbelt. They try heroically to save her life, but the damage was just too much. The stab wound, just too deep, too well placed. We'll learn Tracy Mondaball's heart beat for the last time in the blood-soaked cab of Nick's truck. Once police switched their focus from trying to save the victim to trying to find the suspect, the available evidence quickly points towards the defendant's home. The truck is registered to Nick Boat, formerly of that address, and one of the witnesses states that the person who sped away from the scene was driving a Cadillac. Well, Cadillac is also registered to the defendant's address. So police converge on the defendant's home. It's a small house, but when the police knock, the defendant doesn't answer. The Cadillac is there, so they believe someone's home. In fact, the brakes are still warm. So they knock, and they wait. And they knock, and they wait. We'll learn they knocked for almost 5 minutes before this defendant answered the door. And when she did, she was in a robe, freshly showered. Police will later request and be granted a search warrant for the defendant's home. And they will find one, and only one, set of clothing in the washer, just as freshly laundered and clean as the defendant's body when she answered the door. So police will find no blood evidence on the defendant, or on the clothing for that matter. And I want to be clear, law enforcement never found what it is the defendant did with the knife after she stabbed Tracy. But the evidence that she couldn't hide will tell a different story. We'll have an opportunity to watch together the security footage of the defendant's Cadillac watching Tracy as she goes through the Burger King drive-thru. Additional security at rear mirror will show her Cadillac creeping into a parking spot. And then when she realized she was too close, she actually even backed up a little bit. We'll watch that when Tracy left, so did the defendant. Back in the cab of the pickup truck, police recovered lots of blood evidence. But it's all Tracy's blood. So that really doesn't further the investigation all that much. But there was other evidence around the truck. Evidence that stood out. We'll learn that there was a fingertip torn from a blue latex glove, suggesting the killer planned far enough in advance to obtain, bring with, and put on rubber gloves during the attack. This was no spur of the moment murder. This was planned out. In addition, we'll learn that when Tracy fought back, she grabbed the defendant's hair. Hair that law enforcement found in her hand. Hair that the crime team recovered. Hair that the forensic scientists tested. And hair with DNA that matches this defendant. And just how hard the struggle wasn't apparently known. So police sought and obtained permission to photograph the defendant, looking for injuries. In the early morning hours after the attack, the only visible injuries to Michelle Boat were minor and superficial. 36 hours later, she had bruises from her wrist all the way down to her elbow. Another source of evidence, almost as helpful as the evidence left at the crime scene, was the evidence both inside and outside the defendant's Cadillac. First, remember the distinctive necklace that Nick said Tracy often wore? Well, when law enforcement searches the defendant's vehicle, attached to the windshield wiper is a black choker necklace. Also, inside the Cadillac, trace amounts of blood are found on the Cadillac's steering wheel. And on the outside of the vehicle, near the mirror, there's also blood found. Both the blood inside and outside of the caddy is tested, and it's Tracy Mondaball's blood. And finally, while the police couldn't recover blood from the defendant or her freshly washed clothes, that's not to say that there wasn't any evidence in her home. Police found something hidden in a toilet tank. A toilet right next to the shower. Inside that toilet tank, they found a towel. Inside that towel, they found a blue latex glove. More precisely, a blue latex glove with one of its fingertips missing. A couple more thoughts and then I'll sit down. It's important to remember that just because you took an oath to be a juror doesn't mean you checked your common sense at that door. Each and every one of you will bring your own life experiences to this jury. You will have to decide which evidence you trust. You will have to decide which witnesses you believe. And at the conclusion of this case, and based on the evidence, we will stand before you and ask that you return a verdict finding the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree. As the facts will support it, the law will compel it, and justice will demand it. Because by then, we will have all learned that Michelle Boat was so scorned, so obsessed, and so seething that on May 18th, 2020, in Marion County, Iowa, she hunted, she gloved up, and she plunged a knife into Tracy Mondaball's heart, murdering her. Thank you.